Welcome students to your geography session for class 7th. The chapter which we are going to study in this session is chapter number 3 from the book. The name of the chapter is Weather and Climate, and this is the first part of the chapter. Now let's see the introduction. Weather and climate. We all might have heard the word weather and climate. We all keep on listening these words. Now let us see what are the differences between weather and climate and what is the meaning. Introduction. Let us read some lines and then it will be more clear to us. Weather and climate are always related to each other. That is why they are often mistaken for each other. That is very true. We get confused between weather and climate. What is weather and what is climate? But both are different things. Now let's see first what is weather. Weather is the condition of state of the atmosphere at a place. Now listen very carefully and pay attention. Weather is the condition of state of the atmosphere at a place over a short period of time, usually 24 hours. Now how is the weather? What is the weather at a specific time or in a specific area? Weather is never static, means it keeps on changing. Now what is climate? Now let's see what is climate. Climate is defined as an average of the weather conditions prevailing at a particular place recorded over a long time. Means that India, most of the time the weather is hot, so India would be considered as a country with hot climate. So when we talk about climate, we talk about climate of a place which we see over a long duration. That is called climate. Weather is the condition of the atmosphere at a particular place for a particular period of time, but climate is seen and recorded for a longer period of time. That is the difference between weather and climate. Now let's see what are elements of weather and climate. Now what is the meaning of this heading? Weather and climate play a very important role in our life. We all know that. Although they are different from each other, when we say weather, we can actually say how cold and dry it is today. That is very clear. And in other words, when we talk about weather, we can go into more detail. Means today the weather is very humid. Today it is very windy. Today it is very cloudy. So this is how we can define the weather into more specific terms. When we talk about climate of a place, we say how cold or hot or dry or wet it is. Thus rainfall and temperature are two most important elements of climate. So let's take up the first point. Temperature. What is temperature? Temperature, we all might have heard this term temperature. Temperature refers to degree of hotness or cold. Now temperature means that when we talk about a temperature of anything, suppose the temperature of a human being, the temperature of a cake, the temperature of a tea, of a cup of tea. So the temperature is the degree of how cold or how hot that thing is, or the body is, or the whatever the things we are measuring. The temperature of a thing is measured by what we all know. You all might have heard temperature is measured by thermometer. Now temperature is measured in degrees. There are two degrees. One is Celsius and second is Fahrenheit. Temperature of a place is influenced by the following factors. Now when taking a temperature can be affected by following factors. Temperature can be cold, temperature can be hot, but the reasons why the temperature is changing, there are certain factors. Now what are the factors? Latitude and altitude. Now there are two factors very important, latitude and altitude. Now let's see the first factor. What is latitude? The area that lie near the equator receive more heat than the areas lying near the poles. Okay, the areas that are situated near the equator experience vertical and direct sunlight and sun rays. That we all know that the places which get direct sunlight would be hotter than the places which are getting indirect sunlight. That means the places which are in the corner of the north, or the places which are in the corner of the south, those places which are not getting direct sunlight, they might be having colder regions as compared to the places which are in the middle and which are near the equator and which are getting the high sun rays. So these places receive high sun rays, and that is why they are more hot. Altitude. What is altitude? It is another important factor which affects the temperature of a place. Places lying on the same latitude experience equal temperature. Of the height or altitude of these places vary from each other. Now see, the thing is, latitude, we have discussed that the places which are near the equator or far from the equator, that depends upon how the places are getting colder or warmer. But one more thing is there: the places which are at the lower level of ground or the places which are on the higher level of ground, that also affects the climatic conditions, okay, the temperature. For example, it is saying over here, places lying on the same altitude experience equal temperature. If the height or altitude of these places vary from each other, then the temperature will also vary. Now it is very important. Now see, suppose there are two cities which come in the same region, but one city is located on plain land and other city is located on the top of the mountain. So although they are coming in the same region, the temperature might be different. Why? Because the lower level of land is getting much sunlight, because it is getting direct sunlight, because it is situated or it is located on the plain land. Now, and the altitude of another place which is on the top of the hill, that the altitude of that place might be low because it is on the top. Okay, so it might be getting more air or more clouds, so the temperatures will vary. It is believed that on an average, for every 1000 meters of altitude, the temperature drops about 6.50 centigrade or Celsius. Is it clear? Therefore, Shimla is cooler than Chandigarh. That is very understood. Now the next points are points that affect their temperature. There are total 5 points. Now let's see what is the third point. Closeness to the sea. Now let's see what this point is telling us. Closeness to the sea. Now the places which are close to the sea or the water bodies, places, the temperature of those places also change as compared to the places which are in the dry regions. Now let's see what is written in the book. Closeness of a place to the sea affects its temperature. It happens because the sea temperature changes slower than land temperature. So the sea keeps the coastal area warmer than land during the winter and cooler than land during the summer. Now water bodies and the water areas also affect the places which are located near the water areas, because these places or these cities are also affected by the changes of the weather conditions which are taking place on the water area bodies or the water areas. Fourth point is amount of sunshine. Temperature of a place also depends on the amount of sunshine received by a place. That is very clear, as we studied previously in this chapter, that if a place is getting direct sunshine, that place would be warmer as compared to the places which are getting less sunshine. The angle of rays is another factor. Angle of rays, the places which are getting direct sunlight may be warmer, and the places which are getting indirect sunlight might be cooler. The last point is ocean currents. What are ocean currents? Ocean currents flowing out from the equatorial region are warm, while currents flowing out from the polar regions are cold. Warm currents raise the temperature, and the cold currents lower down the temperature. That is very clear by these lines, that the places which are having colder regions, the ocean currents coming from those places are lowering down the temperature. Now warm currents raise the temperature of the nearby coastal areas, while cold currents lower the temperature. For example, warm currents such as North Atlantic drift keeps the coast warm. Cold currents such as Canaries keep the area cooled. Now let's see the next heading, precipitation. What is precipitation? Precipitation is defined as water falling from the atmosphere in any form. Means the water falling from the atmosphere in any form. Now what are these forms? Rain, snow, hail, and sleet. It occurs when air becomes saturated with water vapor and the water vapor condenses and falls on the earth. Now water falling from the atmosphere in different forms is also known as precipitation. Now when we receive water on the surface of the earth in these forms, rain, snow, etc., that is known as precipitation. Now rainfall is the most common form of precipitation. Rainfall is the most common form of precipitation. When we see water falling from the atmosphere, that is usually rain, and the instrument with the help of which we measure the rainfall is known as rain gauge. Now see the types of precipitation. There are 4 types as we discussed: rain, hail, dew, and snow. Now let's see one by one what are the points. Rain precipitation in the liquid form is called rain. Hail, frozen lumps of ice are hailstones. Dew, tiny drops of water that condense on the ground or cool surfaces, usually in the night times, that is dew. Snow is precipitation composed of ice crystals. Now I hope these points which we have discussed till now in this session is clear to you. This chapter will be continued to the second part. I hope the points are clear. Thank you and have a nice day.